Hey everyone, welcome to our first of two lectures for this week, and this one will be on persuasive appeals. This is a particularly fun one because I think at this point most of you probably know or have heard of the three concepts of logos, pathos, and ethos. However you end up liking to say them: logos, pathos, ethos, tomatoes, you get the idea. And some of you are like, no, it is logos. In this lecture, we're just going to do a brief overview of those three, kind of just go in a little bit more depth. This lecture will be really short because there's not a lot to cover for these three. And you'll find that they're pretty helpful when we get to the discussion board that we're going to be using to practice these three. You'll note in persuasive speaking, you can use these three as different appeals to your audience. And what you're probably wondering is, well, what is logos? What is pathos? What is ethos? Some of you may hearken back to high school, maybe hearing these phrases, maybe in your literature or English classes. Well, let's just start with ethos. It's probably the first and probably the easiest one to understand. I'm going to use our Calvin and Hobbes pictures again that kind of help illustrate these ideas. An appeal to ethos is when you try to establish your credibility with your audience. Now, credibility is in almost everything that we do. There could be an argument that your credibility is established in basically all the things that you do and say. But an appeal to ethos particularly focuses on you as a person. How do you, in your gifts and your strengths, and also your weaknesses, bring credibility to the thing that you're speaking about? And one of the things your book talks about is you need to be knowledgeable about your topic. The focus is not necessarily on the knowledge itself, like the statistics you bring up, because that will be tying into logos. But ethos focuses on, when your audience looks at you, do you seem like you know what you're talking about? Have you done your research? Do you feel like you're knowledgeable about your subject matter? So if you're talking about animal rights and, maybe arguing for adoption of dogs, especially during COVID-19. People might be lonely and they need a furry animal. Do you appear knowledgeable about the subject matter itself? Do you share your credentials or experience? I own a dog myself and have had her for 7 years. That's actually true. I have a dog and she is the best. But do you appear knowledgeable? Do you share your credentials and experience with the adoption of dogs kind of process? Do you use good eye contact and good posture? Credibility of your ethos as an appeal to credibility kind of focuses on your appearance. Do you seem like you're someone that's trustworthy? And does your eye contact invite the audience into that conversation? Do you have good posture? Are you ethical? Like, this harkens back to the ethics conversation we had in class. Do you really seek to respect your audience members and even the subject matter itself? Maybe it's a controversial one like gun rights or healthcare. Do you seem to be someone who has thought through this well and presents the information in a balanced way? Do you use supporting evidence from trustworthy sources? The focus is on trustworthy sources, right? Evidence would be more of a logos appeal, but again, the idea is this trustworthy? And also, do you double check and validate the evidence you use? All of these kind of focus on your ethos. They establish your credibility with your audience. Kind of think about it as the person that you are as seen and the kinds of things that you do and the evidence that you bring to the table and how you do it. Then there's an appeal to pathos, which is your appeal to the hearts and emotions of people. A lot of people often think of just passion or energy, just period. When they think of pathos, you might think of me. I definitely use energy as a way to kind of persuade people when I speak. That's just, I think, one of the giftings I know that I have. But pathos goes beyond just mere energy. It is an appeal to the heart of people, right? You can't just, make people think that you're awesome and credible to talk about something. Do you really resonate and connect with people's hearts when you speak? Do you address their emotions in the arguments themselves? One real great way to do this is humor, as I've kind of given with this comic strip of Calvin. What better way to really reel the audience in than to use some humor? "O great altar of passive entertainment, bestow upon me thy discordant images of such speed as to render linear thought impossible." And then Calvin ends up watching TV, right? Is this like a depiction of all of us right now in quarantine? Hopefully not. Maybe we're reading a good book or something as well, but, the idea is use some humor. If I can get your attention with humor, then I have succeeded. I've in certain ways used a pathos approach. There's also other ways. You can let your audience know that they are susceptible to a threat. You can convince your audience that... Let me move this over just a little bit. You can convince your audience that the threat is severe and has negative consequences. You can explain how your recommended action behavior will address the threat or solution, whatever it is. Show your audience how they can engage in the recommended action. These are ways to appeal to pathos. I could spend a lot more time on that, but I'll let that be. Basically, think about how you connect to people's hearts. And the last one is logos, which you probably know a lot about already. It's an appeal to logic, reason, and evidence. I love this Calvin and Hobbes comic strip. I think we've got enough information now, don't you? All we have is one fact you made up. That's plenty. By the time we add an introduction, a few illustrations, and a conclusion, it will look like a graduate thesis. My life, literally, right now. No, you don't do that. Don't make up facts if you do grad school. Some things you can think about when you are appealing to logos is use statistics, use examples, use testimonies from experts. You want to be using factual information, which we've talked about in class. Your book actually makes an interesting claim, which I actually agree with. It says that studies have shown that while ethical and emotional appeals can play a large role in persuasion, the strength and relevance of your logical arguments have the strongest effects in most situations. If you think about the ways you view politics or healthcare or environmental issues, gun rights, like you name it, a lot of those arguments come down to the heart and issue of what is the relevance of those arguments. What are the reasons and the evidence? What is it? That is very important for your argumentation. So maybe I'll end with another meme. If you're always in doubt, the Credible Hulk. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry because I always back up my rage with facts and documented sources. I think my instructor from my public speaking class shared this with me. It's just fantastic. So that's ethos, logos, and pathos. Very, very simple. And you will use one of these three or more of them in your speeches. So be thinking about them as you construct your persuasive speeches and as you kind of think through what you want to talk about. Be thinking about, am I using more of a logos approach? You will. You're going to have at least 4 oral citations. I believe that's what the assignment instruction says. So if you have 4 oral citations, you need to make sure you use logos. If you are trying to persuade people to maybe adopt a dog during quarantine, you would want to use maybe an appeal to pathos, show some cute images of dogs and kind of bring the relevance of the issue to them through an appeal to their hearts. And then if you use credibility, talk about why you're very credible to talk about this. Create an atmosphere that feels trustworthy. So those are some ways you can use ethos, logos, and pathos. This week, week 13, this is everything that is on the Blackboard weekly checklist. You'll notice that we're still kind of in chapter 11. That's why I said review it. You've now just watched the Persuasive Appeals lecture. Now what I want to do with the next minute or two is just kind of show you how to do the next thing, which is engage with the logical appeals discussion board, which is on Blackboard. If you come to Blackboard, right now these are hidden because I haven't released them at this moment, but what you will see is all the assignments, which is, again, Chapter 11, lecture, and then you'll find that there are these discussion boards that you need to do to engage with each of the things that we talk about for these lectures this week. So for our lecture right now, you have just completed the Persuasive Appeals lecture. Now you're going to complete the Logical Appeal Discussion Board, and it's broken up into 2 steps, and I've included a link below. It's very clear. I try to distinguish it between the other board, which I will talk about in the second lecture. You want to be aware that there are 2 parts to this. What you will do is you will choose from the list of following topics one that resonates with you. I've tried to make them as fun as possible, things that are kind of low-key, or some things that are related to what we're dealing with right now. It's like, should the U.S. government create a nationwide stay-at-home order for all 50 states? kind of deals with COVID-19. Or maybe you're like me right now and you just kind of want to joke around. Who would win in a fight, Captain America or Batman? No. The answer cannot be because I'm Batman. Because I'm Batman. You cannot do that. You have to have a thoughtful response. You're going to pick one of these topics. After you've picked your topic, create your own thread. And what I mean by that is you will click on this board. I will open it up a new tab so we can go back and forth. You're going to open it up, and this is what it is. It's empty right now. I will create an example so you can see. What I mean is create your own thread. This is your own thread. You'll notice that it kind of looks like you can create a title and then a response. You'll go back here, pick your topic. So if I picked who would win in a fight, I'm going to copy and paste that. I'm going to come back here, put the question in the subject matter area. This way, people can kind of see what you choose, so it's very clear to the audience. And then you'll notice that I say after you created your thread, I want you to utilize either logos, pathos, or ethos. And I want you to create a short argument to support or negate the topic that you pick. So if you do this one, you'd pick either Captain America or Batman. If you say the government should create a nationwide stay-at-home order, you would create an argument for it. And I want you to use logos, pathos, or ethos. Now, and I give it a little, like if you're answering a question, just be very specific. Your response should be as thoughtful as 3 to 5 sentences at least. And I want you to post this by this Wednesday, April 8th by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you will come in here, and actually I've already created a response just so that we can have something to work with. Say Mr. Johnson was participating in this, which would be fun. I might say, according to Avengers Endgame, Cap lifts Thor's hammer, so not only is he worthy, but he wields incredible power. Power that Batman could not endure. Cap is also agile, fast, and a gifted warrior, whereas Batman has many gadgets but lacks the physical strength that Cap possesses. If you're a Batman fan, I'm sorry, I've just done that. You could then respond to this, right? But within this, I've created I've tried to appeal to logos. I've tried to use some evidence, like I cite Endgame. It's very possible you'll have a little bit of overlap, but I want you to focus on one of them. If you used passion or pathos, focus on that. If it's ethos, focus on ethos. Maybe I'd say, I have been watching Marvel movies since I was 15 years old, and with all the knowledge I possess about these movies, I can guarantee that Captain America is one of the strongest superheroes. So he would beat Batman. See, I'm appealing to my ethos. Or maybe pathos. I would say, Captain America is the coolest superhero because he wields a shield, he has super cool strength, and he's a great guy. And all of you Batman fans are like, yeah, but what about Batman? You get the idea. Use logos, ethos, or pathos and create an argument. Then what you'll do is, can't see it. You'll hit submit. And then what you'll see is that the thread appears. This is what you need to have due by Wednesday. That's why it is split between part 1 and part 2. So create your post by Wednesday. Then what I want you to do is after Wednesday, by Friday, April 10th, 11:59 p.m. This is the second thing you would do. I want you to respond to one of your peers' threads. You can respond to as many people as you want, but at least one person. Remember, you are practicing logical appeals, so be gracious and kind with one another, even if you disagree. All my Batman fans. Your response should be thoughtful, so at least 2 to 3 sentences. I want you to go on, click on a response, and you'll see that there's a reply option. Just click reply, and you might say, that's a really interesting argument, Mr. Johnson. While I respect what you said, I have to disagree. And then, you just put your response in 2 to 3 sentences, whatever you want. But you don't have to necessarily, I always try to be, over accommodate and be disrespectful. But be respectful and respond to your opponent, not your opponent, your colleague. You could even agree with them. It doesn't matter. You can agree, disagree, but at some point say at least something like this. I see that you are using, I think, a logical appeal. Logos. Something like that. Just include it in your response, whatever you want. Just kind of be clear, like, I think I see what you're saying. As long as as long as it is a responsive response, then that is what I'm looking for. So that's what this is, the Logical Appeals discussion board. Post your original one by Wednesday, and then have a reply by April 10th. You'll see then also that after you'll notice that there's another lecture, the Logical Fallacies lecture. You're basically going to do something exactly the same in that second lecture. You'll do another discussion board post, and the instructions are very clear here. You'll do the exact same process that I've just kind of shown you, but this one is a little bit different, which I'll explain in the second video. But if you have any questions, let me know, but you just need to be aware of these due dates. I will keep track of these. If you miss them, you will be docked some attendance for this. This Logical Appeal Board and this Logical Fallacies Discussion Board, these are measuring attendance for the week. So please, please, please be on top of these. If you're late in the responses, I'll have to dock a couple points for the week. That is it for this particular lecture. Again, if you have any questions, let me know.